Hello and welcome to another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman, and I'm joined by my usual cohorts, the Professor Russ Stevens and Uncle Joe McLaughlin. Well, boys, we have another great show for you tonight, so let's get it started. Breaking news from the Grandstanders Live desk. It's news that we have been waiting for, well, hell, the whole season. Duran is coming up. Jared Duran is coming
Oh, is
up.
that right? I didn't know that.
Yep, breaking news. It works out perfect. I was thinking this, but they open up tomorrow at Yankee Stadium. And all of a sudden, you got Jared Duran leading off, a left-handed hitter. It feels like all of a sudden a couple of home runs in the short porch over the weekend. But what it means mostly is we have our center fielder for at least the next 6 years.
How do you think he's going to factor into the lineup? Will he play center? Will he, and then they're going to move Kike to second? Like, what's going to happen?
I think, well, Joe, I would think that Duran plays center, Kiki goes to second, and they switch back and forth right now with Arroyo and Dahlbeck at first base for this moment in time, for the weekend at least.
So it's official. They've announced they're bringing him up.
Actually, he's coming up.
Wow, that's amazing.
He's coming up. He's going to New York, or he's coming up when they come back.
He's on his way. I'm looking at it now. He's on his way to New York to join the Sox for his big league debut.
And fellas, he's not going to play to Yankee Stadium to be on the roster to sit on the bench.
I mean, you got to play him. He's got to play 4 games a week, right? Like, otherwise, you should leave him in Worcester.
Look, he's going to play. If he plays well, he's playing every day.
So I mean, they'll still work Arroyo in. They'll spot guys around.
Lefties, a tough lefty.
I mean,
you'll put Kiki in center. Arroyo
interesting. So they went and did it. Well, that's because they had the 2 injuries. They had to open. They had 2 open spots on the team.
Look, the fact is they haven't played very well lately. They went 3-3 in the road trip. They didn't look very good. They lost 2 out of 3 of the Phillies game. One of those games, Duran could have helped win them a game. And in fact, in the West Coast could have helped them win a game. It's time. He's ready. I mean, he's probably more than ready. He's 24 years old. He's older than Devers.
Yep, 49 days older than Devers. I sent that to you the other day. It's crazy, right?
So this is an exciting time for the Red Sox because if he becomes the player we think he's going to be, that changes that lineup.
Yeah, it sure does. Now that I don't think they won't lead him off. They'll bat him 8th or 9th to start, right? Like they'll have Kike's hitting well as the leadoff spot, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's a great question. Yeah, I'm going to say that. Yeah, Cora tends to do that, right? He did that with Dahlbeck and stuff. I think that's right. He probably
Yeah, I don't think you can lead him off. That's just too much to ask, I think.
Yeah.
Let him get up here first. Let him get his feet wet. Then see if he'd like to lead off.
Right.
He's got the wheels, and I guess his on-base percentage has improved quite a bit. He's walking a lot more than he used to.
Look,
big strikeout guy.
Red Sox and Yankees always going to draw a big audience. Of course, the Red Sox in first place.
So now what?
Watching this game tomorrow.
So now you shift to what else do they need? I still think my highest priority would be you can never have enough pitching, but you've got Sale and Houck, and then you got to have someone to platoon with Dahlbeck at a minimum. You just do. You got to get a lefty hitter at first base.
Well, guys, I just don't think Dahlbeck's the answer in the short term or the long term. I just think if you can get a guy, look, if you just had this draft, and we'll talk about it after this topic. You just had a draft. You're going to bring in a lot of young players that you like. Obviously, you drafted them. You have an opportunity to get rid of some prospects and keep the system strong. Go out and get yourself an Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah, they were talking about that he'd be available, and you don't have to empty your farm system to get Anthony Rizzo, right?
No.
I mean, Chris Bryant's going to be on the move. You could play him at first base, right?
Yeah.
He's played every freaking position in that All-Star game last night, practically.
Or he could go to third, his natural position, and Devers.
Yeah, you don't move. I just don't think you move Devers in the middle of a year. I would not mess around with moving Devers off a third during the middle of a year. That just doesn't make sense to me.
No. and it's not a good negotiating ploy because you got to
No.
want to re-sign this guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
he's-
yeah. You just want him to play third base. He's
Yeah.
playing it better lately. Just do your job. Don't get,
Yep.
don't, don't Xander the guy, right?
Yeah, Rizzo. Look, Rizzo was a Red
Rizzo
Sox
would be
smart man.
fantastic.
He actually threw
He'd
a
be
ball at Lucas.
fantastic.
Yeah, he threw a ball at Lucas in Portland once.
That's
You know,
great.
Rizzo would be a nice fit for this team.
Yeah, I agree with you.
personality-wise, too.
Santana would be fine. I think Santana would be good. He'd be a good sort of solution for the rest of the year. He'll get somebody. That's an easy thing to replace.
Yeah,
Right.
first base, almost anyone can fill the position.
But also, they're not going to. Yeah, he's not. Hein Bloom. We know what we know about Hein Bloom is, and he's a organizational guy. He's not giving up top prospects for anybody, especially for guys that are going to be free agents in a couple of months.
Well, they would for your boy Merriweather,
Merrifield?
Merrifield.
No, yeah, but he's not. He's got 2 more years left in this deal.
Yeah, no, they'd give up. He'd
That's
give up
why
top
they give up
prospects for him.
prospects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he would give up top prospects for him. I don't think he'd give up a Cases, obviously, or a Durant, but he'd give up the next level. Actually,
Yeah.
that's no question, because that kid can play, and scary in that lineup. Can you imagine if we have Durant and then Merrifield all of a sudden at the top of the
Yeah,
lineup,
it'd be some
And now you
serious
bring every-
speed. Yeah.
bringing everybody down? All right,
Well-
gotta go to the MLB draft. We were totally into it, fellas, right?
Yep.
We wanted lighter, and the booby price is pretty good. The top guy in the draft that everyone assumed, Marcelo Mayer, a shortstop, 18-year-old stud. Guy reminds me of Yelich. Looks like a potential superstar. Falls to number 4. Red Sox are
Amazing.
gotta be ecstatic.
Yeah, everyone thought the Tigers at 3 were going to take the short. No, they took the
Yeah, that was the only sure thing that I read in advance of the draft was the one guy who wouldn't fall to them was Mayer, and he's the guy who fell to him. So, that's fantastic.
Look, if the Pirates didn't draft him, we know he must be really good.
Right. Well, I mean, and he's also just saying, he's saying, look, I want to sign right away. He's not fooling around. Like he wants to start playing baseball. He wants to get up here as fast as possible, and Devers came up when he was what, 19, 20?
Yep.
Right? Like you think you give this kid a couple of serious years. I mean, it's going to take him 2 years, but you give him a couple of serious years under his belt, you throw him into that lineup with these guys and whew, it's going to be fun to watch.
I heard comparisons, months ago, and because of course it seemed like he was out of reach for us, of A-Rod. Remember, A-Rod came
Oh,
out of
really?
high school too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It won't be long before this guy is up
Yeah.
in the major leagues starting at shortstop. Joe, I ask you the question, does this affect in some level how they negotiate with Xander in a long-term deal?
No, because 95% of the guys that get drafted in the first and second round are shortstop or catcher. And they get changed into outfielders, into second baseman,
Yeah.
what have you. The
Yeah.
best athlete on your high school team, and sometimes on your college team, is usually a shortstop. And that's the guys that are getting drafted. And they evolve into another position during their minor league development usually. They even become pitchers.
Well, I tell you something, the Major League Baseball draft followed it very closely, as I said. It just seems Hein Bloom has a real idea of what's going on and a plan. And it seemed, if you listen to the pundits, that they got guys like a kid out of Notre Dame. Dame was
Yeah.
a remarkable slugger.
I got to tell you, I don't think that guy from Notre Dame and Matt Stairs have ever been seen in the same room because that guy is a dead ringer for Matt Stairs or Max Muncy. I mean, just a big, stocky guy who all he wants to do is hit home runs.
He's kind of cornered the market on catches. We've got a ton of catches.
Yeah.
Well,
They'll move him around. To your point, Joe, they'll move him around.
That's good for.
They're good trade chips.
They really are good.
Yeah.
trades.
Everyone always needs. Everyone's dissatisfied with their catching.
All right, so differing news coming out of the All-Star game as far as Xander and Devers. Devers said, "I want to be with the Red Sox forever. They're my favorite. They were my favorite team growing up." Xander says, I love the Red Sox. It's been a great organization, but I don't have to play for them for my entire career. Posturing, is that just Scott Boras talking?
Yeah, that's just Scott. I mean, that's just Scott Boras. Devers looks like a guy that, he just looks like a guy who, you give him a good contract, he's going to sign it.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't. I don't think there's a lot of gamesmanship with Devers, and yeah, Boras is doing what he should be doing. Boras, you know, with Bogarts slipped away from him a little bit and signed that deal. But luckily for them, it's an opt out. So you're going to be renegotiating with Xander, you know, next year, and he's not taking a below market contract next time around.
Wait,
No way.
So is the opt out after this season?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so he's going to be a free agent.
Yeah, Boris, Xander took kind of a team-friendly deal to stay in this last deal, but Boris made sure there was a couple of opt-outs just in case he changed his mind. And now this one will be exercised, I'm sure.
Look, this feels like Gilmore with the Patriots, Xander with the Red Sox. They're more valuable to the team they're currently on.
Yeah.
Well, no, hang on, Joe. Joe, there's a correction. He can opt out after next season. He can opt out after 2022 season.
Oh, so
we've got him this year and next year.
Oh, okay. That makes a big deal. So I think the Red Sox. I didn't know that the Red Sox will get something done with Xander.
They got plenty of time.
Yeah.
They got plenty of time.
Yeah.
And, you know,
the big question is for Xander is, you know, if you do sort of think about if they sign him for 6 years, you know, I don't think he's a shortstop for 6 more years, especially if Marcelo Mayer or somebody else is coming up through. You know, you're going to need to figure out long term where you end up planting Xander. You know, by the way, he's a kind of, you know, he could probably play, you know, he could play. Imagine Xander in left field.
And that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I think he'd be a
Right?
really good left fielder.
Robin Yount moved to center. You know, like you put him in, you put athletic left fielder, depending on, you know, how the rest of these guys shake out. You can move Verdugo to right. Like there's all sorts of places you could play, but you know, he doesn't have to play third is my point. Right.
And statistically, if you listen to the stats, he's the worst shortstop in Major League Baseball, and it has been for a lot of years. The eye test doesn't tell me that, but the fact is,
I don't believe that.
Xander playing short.
Same here.
You know, he's not a great shortstop.
No,
He's fine.
not
He's
great
fine.
range, but he's fine.
He's fine. He makes all the standard plays, right? He's not hurting you, really.
Okay, I'm going to apologize. I have to apologize to Kiki Hernandez.
Yes, you do.
He doesn't suck completely.
Yes, you do.
After watching the Dodgers games and watching that stiff play, he actually he's been a very a quality Major League Baseball player this first half.
This might come around and bite you the same as
he's a B+ player. He's a B+ player. He's playing.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, but I mean, I think
He
for
might
what
just be generous.
well, but think about what you're paying for him, though. Like my point is, in terms of the value that you're getting a starting center fielder, leadoff hitter, who's at least replacement level for next to nothing.
We put $7 million. They're actually paying him pretty good.
Yeah, it's still not a lot of money in this day and age.
He's played well. He's played well. But actually, it's not been fair to him because he's not a full-time player, and he said that. And he has played that role. And that's another thing. Having Duran in this team is going to help Kiki Hernandez because he's not going to have to play.
He doesn't have to play every single day in center field. And yeah, exactly.
He sticks into that utility role, which will be very effective. And we ship Marwin Gonzalez the hell out of Boston.
Yeah, him and the other kid are just
yeah, they can't play baseball.
Flotsam and jetsam. They really can't play baseball.
Yeah. Vasquez. In the history of the Red Sox, Cora started talking about Christian Vasquez. Carlton Fisk being the best catcher in the history of the Red Sox. I know that's Russie Boy's guy. Tech being second. Is Christian Vasquez the third best catcher in the history of the Red Sox?
Yeah, at least in our lifetime, yeah, but those three are like the only ones who stand out.
Right,
yeah, I mean,
isn't that remarkable?
It is pretty remarkable. I mean, they probably right. Mirabelli. I mean, it's like being the general of a 2-person army. I mean, it's the third best catcher in Red Sox history. I don't know.
That's true. I'm gonna steal that line. Thank you.
You know,
I like that. Yeah, absolutely. But I know. I just wanted. That's why it's kind of bringing that up. It's kind of remarkable, but it's true.
he's playing well, and you know, he's not a you know, automatic out. There were a couple of years there the guy was an automatic out, right?
But wait, I know how Russ is going to stand to this, but Russ, I just want you to take a step back here. If you think about, I mean, Carlton Fisk played more games for the White Sox than he did the Red Sox.
Yeah, right.
Jason Varitek with the Red Sox his whole career, won
Yeah.
2 World Series.
Yeah.
Who's the #1 catcher in the history of the Red Sox?
I think it's, you know, you could make an argument either way for Varitek or Fisk, right? Because Fisk played what, say 7 years, 8, how many years did he play with the Red Sox? Started in what, 74, 73?
Quality years. And
Yeah.
He was a real thorn in his side when he was with the White
Really
Sox.
was.
Oh,
Yeah.
he
So,
was.
you know, longevity wise, he wasn't here long. So you can make an argument that Varitek's the best Red Sox catcher ever.
Pretty good.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, all right. Another guy I have to apologize for. Jesus, the apology tour. Matt Barnes, I'm sorry.
Oh yes, you do. Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
re-signed Matt
I
Barnes.
hear that.
Alex Cora in the on deck circle on this.
No, that scumbag. That's gonna take a
I
while.
hear
That's
that.
gonna
I
take a
hear
World
that.
Series, Joe.
I hear that Mrs. Barnes is not very happy with you in particular.
Well,
Boy,
she's
he looked terrible in that uniform last night, didn't he?
Everyone looked terrible in those uniforms. Those uniforms were ridiculous.
that
It was
They looked like
ridiculous.
escaped convicts.
They looked like they're pajamas. They were like wearing pajamas on the baseball field. It was so the stupidest thing I've ever seen MLB do in that regard.
they've
What
done
are
a
you
lot of
doing?
stupid things.
Yeah, and they've done a ton of stupid things, but that was unnecessary and
Yeah,
stupid.
they did look like long johns or pajamas.
Just let them wear the freaking uniforms that everyone loves, the ones they wear every game.
Right.
Yeah, if they,
Right.
everyone wears the same pants and wears their own uniform shirt.
I know, and they can have a
Everyone
different
likes that.
They can have a funny hat if they need to sell hats for some reason. All right, boys, we go to the Patriots. Mac Jones, if he plays the same level of Cam Newton in the exhibition, Mac Jones is the starting quarterback, boys. There's absolutely no question in my mind. You can just see the words coming out of Gillette Stadium. They love Mac Jones, and I think they've already seen enough.
Well, if the fans have anything to say about it, the fans always love the second string quarterback.
Do you think that
Everywhere you go, you've never seen the guy play a single down, but all the fans want to see him.
like here's the thing, can we at least see him in pads for a week or two before we declare we've seen enough? Like they've seen enough in what? He didn't even have a helmet on half the time. Like wait until the guy gets hit. Like I tell you what, when they put the pads on in some of those hitting practices and Dante Hightower comes around the end and hammers him, you know, then we will have seen enough. Until that happens, I don't, you know, I'm not, I hope it happens,
The actual
but until it
speed
happens.
of NFL defensive backs and linebackers, it learns to adjust. It's going to take a while, Scott.
It's going to take a while.
Well, I'm just, you know, our old friend Kevin Booth always said that within 5 minutes of walking on an NFL field, they can tell.
To be clear, I think they can tell the kid is the quarterback of the future. I agree that they know the kid's the quarterback of the future. They might be thinking the kid could be the quarterback of the future after 4 games, 8 games, or 16 games, frankly.
And remember,
or
they
17
all
games.
told us that Stidham was gonna be the guy last year.
Nobody was buying that.
The McGordy's, all of them said it.
Joe, nobody was buying that one bit, not one bit. And I'm going to tell you something. I love Mac Jones, and I'm the backup quarterback for the Patriots. I'm going to give a 75% chance will be one Jimmy G.
Okay, so you're in an airplane, right? And the airplane's going down. There's 3 of you, but there's only 2 parachutes. I'm assuming you're going to save yourself.
Yeah.
Who are you handing the other parachute to, Mac Jones or Jimmy G? Scott.
Mac Jones.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Jimmy G looks more and more possible every day. They're making more and more noise in San Fran. I don't know if they're blowing smoke, but they're making more and more noise about they're going to start the rookie.
Joe, they don't want to pay Jimmy G $26 million to hold the clipboard.
No one does.
And needless to say, if he does, look, this
And the
all said,
Patriots don't either. Didn't they have like a deal in place, but he had to renegotiate and come down in his price, and the Patriots would have traded for him 3-4 months ago,
is that right?
and he turned it down.
Well, that's not a good move. Look, they get rid of Stidham and Hoyer. They keep Newton, Jimmy G.
No, I don't think they keep Newton. In fact, I couldn't think of a better tutor for Trey Lance than Cam Newton. Like if they're gonna send you Jimmy G, you should send Cam Newton back to them and say, Trey Lance is Cam Newton 2.0.
That's a great.
What is Cam getting 9 this year?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm not even sure it's that. Yeah.
And then the Patriots tried to get Jimmy G down to 12.
Yeah, I mean, if you take Cam's, if you send
He wouldn't
Cam's,
go.
right, if you send Cam's 9 out and you're paying Jimmy G 24, that means Jimmy G's costing you 15.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. No way. 15. Look at 15 gets you, and that's a great segue to my next point. Danny Pryor, we know him, we love him. He's been on the show before. Danny is still waxing poetic about Tom Brady, still pissed off, and I know a lot of Patriots fans are, that Tom Brady's not on this team going into this year. But I want people to understand, it was like a trade we made this year. By not paying Tom Brady, you were able to acquire guys like Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Judon. These are real players that had you had Tom Brady on the team, you could not acquire. So people have to look at it that way.
It's so clear that it was, in retrospect, it was just so clear in retrospect that Brady's time was over here, right? Brady would have gone, the Patriots would have won 10 games, 11 games last year instead of 9 with Tom Brady. You think they would have won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady last year with those guys opting out? No chance. And they wouldn't win the Super Bowl with Tom Brady this year either, because if you had Tom Brady this year, to your point, Scotty, you wouldn't have Matt Judon, Nelson Aguilar, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry.
No, right. So that's what, and you would take those players in a trade for Tom Brady at 43 years old. And people don't
understand. At this point in time, you would. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. But there are a lot of fans out there, including Danny Pryor, that are still waxing poetic and think that Tom Brady should be on this team right now.
Yeah.
It's not the case. All right, boys.
I think.
I got a rumor. I have a source.
Oh, God, this should be good.
Winovich is going to get traded. Or
yeah.
Give you anything for Winovich.
I don't know about that. No, that Joe, I bet you can get a 4th or 5th round.
Fourth round pick.
Right. No, but he was only.
He was a 4th round pick to begin with, wasn't he? And he hasn't shown anything except
No, I think he's shown a lot of
I bet you there are teams out there that would take a look at Winovich and see him fitting in their system better than they can see him fitting in the Patriot system.
I think he's better fitted for the Patriot system in that 2-5 though, on the because he's small. Although he said he's put on some weight so he can set the edge. He's still a pretty small guy to be in. I would say a 4-3 or a 3-4. He's suited for that 2-5 on the wing.
Just doesn't feel like a guy who felt like they had his replacement in a couple of guys now.
He's a great pass rusher, but he's a specialist right now. You can't keep him on rundowns. That's as we saw last year, other teams just ran every down on us.
Yeah, I think that'll be one of the most interesting subplots of the training camp is to see if this guy, he's going to shine early or
he's going to stick. Don't worry, he's going to get better. Remember the kid out the sack leader there out in Arizona.
Chandler Jones.
Chandler Jones. He had the same troubles his first 2 years.
Yeah.
He was having so much trouble setting.
I think
nightmares about setting the edge.
Joe's a big Chase Winovich fan. Who knew, Scotty?
No, I'm actually not. No.
Big Chase Winovich fan.
Go back. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he turns it around. He's a good special teamer too. So.
Yeah, look at him. He's saying even more stuff, Russ. Russ, note to self: don't say anything bad about Chase Winovich in front of
You
him.
better be able to defend yourself if you're going to say any bad things about Chase Winovich in front of Joe.
All right, we go to the Celtics. Maybe you heard of them. Can the Celtics package a Marcus Smart, a Rob Williams, and say what, a Pritchard and picks and blah blah blah, and get a third piece?
Yeah, it depends on the third piece, right? If Bradley Beal this year demanded a trade and said, I would only sign with Boston, pulled an AD basically, and said, I want out, and the only team I'd re-sign with is Boston. You could probably, between Smart, Rob Williams, Neesmith, and, basically every good pick you have, you could probably get Beal at that point.
They have to be like Smart. Do they still use a portion of that trade exception, Russ?
No, because you can't combine it, Joe. You'd have to assemble the, you probably have to sign, put Thompson in it or something. To get to the money, you need to put other things into it.
Would probably do it.
Right. Thompson, Smart, Robert Williams, and like Neesmith and picks would probably do it. The question would be, what else do you have?
You'd have to sign and trade, Rob, because isn't he a restricted free agent now?
Well, you wouldn't have to sign and trade him. You could trade him as a restricted free agent. They'd have his rights at that point.
Yeah.
Just like the Celtics do.
There's one more year left in that deal, right?
Yeah, they have Williams for next year.
Yeah.
I thought he was up this year.
No, after that it's he's a free agent. I don't know if he's restricted.
They can extend him this year. And once he plays out this year, he becomes a restricted free agent. But they could extend him now if they wanted to.
Well, that's the play. You're not giving up Jaylen Brown for the guy. That's ridiculous.
No, I don't think there's very many players in the NBA that they would actually give up Jaylen Brown for at this point.
Because I don't think Jason Tatum is a standalone centerpiece. He doesn't have that all-around game that the other superstars have.
Right.
All right, boys.
Well, I mean, he's going to be a top 10 player. I mean, he does have an all-around game, but he's not there yet. He's only 22, 23 years old. I mean, when he's 28, he could be the guy. He could easily be the guy when he's 28. We don't know how good he's going to be.
He's going to have to go into the paint every once in a while. And
I mean, but he's got plenty. Just remember, Jason Tatum is 2 to 3 years from his prime. He's not even in his prime yet, physically.
I would say even.
Yeah, they only ask offense of him.
I'd say even later than that. Larry Bird was just coming into the league.
Yeah. So same with Jaylen Brown. He's improved every year. So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Scott. I don't think the third piece, unless it's just a premium third piece, or I mean, you've got to really radically, to give up Jaylen Brown, you have to radically upgrade yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And I just don't see too many guys who are available that are big enough upgrades on Jaylen Brown to warrant that.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal or Dame Lillard, we're talking about 30 plus, guys in their 30s that, point guards, and Emily just had a problem with one.
That's right.
I'm not really excited about giving someone like that a five-year deal,
Right.
Well, you give it to him, but you're sure not giving up a young superstar in Jaylen Brown at 20.
No.
So, Joe, you made a great point last week, seeing Phoenix Suns, Chris Paul, traditional point guard, Ayton, traditional center. Of course, look, they've been very lucky. Denver lost, their key guy, Murray. Got hurt, Kyrie. So but moving forward, if you want to have a traditional team, if we think that that's a team that could win a championship, would you go out and go get Alonzo Ball?
Yeah, but yes, Lonzo Ball would be perfect for this team. It's almost just because of the financials, it's almost impossible to get him. It's too detailed to go into, but they'd have to hard cap themselves. It's just he's not really available to them.
Is that right?
Yeah,
okay,
He has really improved himself. I thought he was a stiff, I've had to eat my words on him. He's become quite the ball player.
Well, his brother's a budding star in the
Yeah,
league.
he is.
I mean, that crazy father, holy, you don't want a guy like that to be right, but damn it, he's right.
But now they're
Yeah.
getting real coaches, real coaching from real coaches. It's no longer the nutcase coaching them.
But they also separate, it looks like they separate themselves from their dad. I don't think they're ever
Yeah.
in the same picture. Yeah.
Well, now that he's out of the coaching picture, they've improved immensely.
But he is, I mean, he's like Richard Williams. Look at the
Mhm.
Williams sisters. He's a mad scientist, but he definitely made it work. All right, breaking news in our last segment. Breaking news. Brandon Carlo signs a team-friendly deal at a $4 million cap hit a year for 6 years.
How about that?
You don't give up young defensemen ever because you want them to be old defensemen. These guys
Yeah.
can last 15, 20-year careers. The only thing we worry about with Carlo is concussions. Otherwise, it's a good move.
Yeah, I
I
mean-
had not gone for the term, but you probably had to. He's a big, young, capable, very able defenseman, and those don't grow on trees, and you have to kind of take your chances. I would have liked the term to have been 4 years or 3 years, but I'm sure that's what that was a price they had to pay.
Look, I'm sure if you're a kid who's had those concussions, the longer term, the better. And look, we would have, how many people would have bet, early in Patrice Bergeron's career that he would, after those concussions, that he wouldn't really get another one, or that he'd have the
Yeah.
length of a career. You can pull yourself out of that. And, if he stays healthy, it's a great signing.
Fantastic. Yeah. We just showed when he was out in the playoffs what a difference it made.
Yeah.
And that usually can mean that's the most glaring thing is not always what when they are on the ice, but when they're off the ice, how the team acts. Look, get a freaking helmet, a special helmet for the guy. Do something.
Wes
Yeah,
Welker's not using his.
Right. Put one of those kazoo helmets on him and wrap
Something.
them in bubble wrap or something.
Right. Just have like 2 pillows on the side. I don't care what you got to do. Keep this kid healthy.
Yeah.
Stud. Having McAvoy and Carlo on this team will always keep them in contention. All right, boys. Well, that's our show for tonight. That was a great show, guys. Want to thank, of course, Corbin behind the scenes. Want to thank the fellas. Please check us out on our website at grandstanders.com and tune in again next Wednesday night at 6:30 for another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman. Have a great and happy night.